Me.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Hey guys, welcome back to hopefully your favorite podcast, Off Topic, episode 33. Once again, joined by my co-host Andy.
How you going?
And special guest today. You might have noticed that we're not in Kansas anymore. We're not in the garage. We're out of West Auckland. We're into the big smoke. We've got Jay Reeve with us.
Yeah, the wicked witch of the East Coast. Yeah, fuck, it's great to be here, fellas. Appreciate it. So fucking cheers to that.
Yeah, cheers. Right.
Indeed. I appreciate the support on the tins as well. It's been great seeing you guys dusting a few.
Yeah, I mean, it is our beverage of choice when we are recording.
So we're such svelte-looking individuals. The joy of podcasting is, I mean, we can only describe it as theatre of the mind with three ripped, athletic-looking humans. Three Sonny Bill Williams.
And
so
some.
how's your Monday treating you, bro? What was the weekend like?
Weekend was fucking outstanding for me. Apologies, but swearsy, just getting it out after the radio show. It was great. I've partnered up. I've got a bit of a goal in mind this year. I grew up on a dairy farm, so I grew up in and around understanding where my food comes from, but my kids, I've got twin boys that are 8 and they have no idea. So I kind of have gone out of my way this year, before turning 40, although I look 60, to learn a whole bunch of shit that I've never really leaned into before. So one of those things is learning how to hunt and butcher my own animals. Another one's boxing, which is why I've got this fight coming up, a couple of different sort of sporting and fitness things I'm trying to tick off the list. But I got to go out with a buddy of mine, Andrew Kitchener, who runs Adventure Hunting, which he's got a big block out Onifero, basically in behind Port Waikato.
Yep.
And he had a management stag. So there's animals on there, but he had a management stag, a big 12-point white-red that he was wanting taken off the block. So I put my hand up and I said, "Fucking thanks, mate." And so got my first stag on the weekend.
Holy moly!
Wow. Nice one.
It's a thing of beauty. So went out and banged a Bambi, and then
As a cardio from the weekend, walking that out?
yeah, oh well, mate, I'd love to say that but because I wanted, I'm not even gonna lie. It was a mission to get to it. It's pretty hilly country. I mean, obviously that's where they operate, but because it's a white-red, like when it's looking grubby now because it's been rooting and fighting. But that thing will clean up to being almost Purcell white, like pure white. They're amazing looking animals. So in order to keep it intact, we couldn't really quarter it out because then the taxidermists have a prick of a job, and we want to show it the respect that it deserves, and so that people can see it and get sort of intrigued by it, like I was when I saw people with some mounted heads and go, "Fuck, I want to get into a bit of hunting as well." So we dragged it down a hill, then it dragged me down a hill, and then I dragged it down a bit more, and then it fucking dragged me right down to a creek, and then we winched it across the creek and fucking threw it on the back of a Polaris and peeled out.
Yeah.
3-man lifters.
That's a weekend.
Mate, it's about 220 years, probably nine hours on the hoof. Shot it at just over 200 yards after fucking closing it from 400. Took 2 of the best. The first time I put into it, I was like, fuck, that thing didn't even feel it. And it looked like it didn't. And then smacked it straight again, and then it just sat it. So it's all I wanted. I wanted to learn, and people go and fucking hunt properly, you pussy. But for me, I want to learn how to do things properly.
Yeah.
So if I go out with a whole bunch of mates that just go and steam tins and get hung over, and not saying that that's how my mates operate, but there's a lot of looseness to it. Whereas that's Kitch's job. Like he guides people all over the world and all over New Zealand. So he's very fastidious about his gun safety. And if I'm teaching my kids, then I want to be able to pass those things on. So it's cool. I feel like my training wheels have been knocked off now, and I can go into the bush.
How did the kids respond to it? Like 2 twin boys. What were their thoughts around the whole thing? Are they a bit taken back by it? I'm sure you got a few. I mean, you chuck a photo up, something like that, someone's going to be in your DMs, but you're harking on about it.
Yeah.
But what was their response to it?
Well, the first time I went out with them last year, it was basically to get a meat animal and get a bit more comfortable with the gun. And so we shot on the range. You always shoot on the range regardless when you go out there. If you've shot there 100 times, you shot there for the first time. So you go and hit gongs at 300 yards, or 200 yards, 300 yards, and 400 yards if you're wanting to sort of stretch the legs a bit. And so the first meat animal I got, we came in and the team at Customs County Killing, they basically sent out one of their young bucks and he taught us how to butcher it. So we butchered it at Kitch's place, and I brought my boys along. And so the butcher broke down one side and I broke down the other side, and just learned how to different muscle groups and how to get different bits and pieces, different cuts. And so the boys were there, and we had one of those M2 Overland fucking cookers just going the whole time.
Yeah.
So like, this is backstrap, fry that up for them, try that. This is what a rump tastes like, try that. Here's the intercostal muscles between the ribs, try that. What's that like? It's a bit chewy, fucking this, that, and the other thing. And they loved it.
Yeah.
And because I think if you normalise it, particularly for country kids, like, country kids don't give a shit. Like, or if you go through Asia, if you've travelled through Asia, you'll see kids sitting on the side of the road picking fucking eyeballs out of frogs, and like that's just how they grew up, and that's how they eat. Whereas it takes a Kiwi kid particularly, a Suntownie, to go, ooh, that's yuck, and then instantly they'll never eat it again, because some kid that's never fucking had it, whose parents feed them shit McDonald's, have said, oh, that's yuck, 'cause it's not the food that we normally eat.
Yeah.
So no, they're into it. One of the boys, Oscar and Hunter. Ironically, Oscar's more into it than Hunter.
Oh, yeah.
But they're keen, and they really want to come out. And that's, I think, for me personally, there's a whole bunch of milestones that we miss as New Zealand men, and I think it's starting to really fucking take its toll. Like, you just get everything straight away now. And even when I was a teenager, you want to be an adult, you want a car, you want to be banging, you want to be smashing piss, and you want to be doing everything that adults do. And there's no milestones that we hit as kids. So to go hunting, my kids need to be up to a certain fitness level, so they're working on their fitness. For them to come surfing with me on a surf trip, they need to be able to get waves of a certain size. To go on a diving trip, they need to be able to hold their breath for a minute. Like, you set these things in place, and then
It's good parenting.
they've got something to go for, They've got a benchmark, and I've got time, and I've got the ability to do so I'm a shit human if I don't.
Yeah, well, I mean, it goes both ways as well. Like, though, your boys going into it knowing that they've done this, and if you kind of usher them in that direction, they'll know that they've got your backing, they've hit certain milestones, and they're going to go into it with confidence, which might keep them around a bit longer.
Yeah, well, I'm in business with Jeff Ross and his son Finn, and Jeff is an idol of mine in business and in life. Like, he's just one of the fucking greatest humans you'll ever meet. Like, just a wealth of knowledge. Built him and his wife Jussie have built the biggest brands that New Zealand's ever had. Koya Candles, Trilogy Skincare, 42 Below, Moa Bears, you fucking name it. Wow. They've had a hand in everything. And their kids, they've built incredible humans. And both of their kids are environmentally focused and wanting to make a positive change. And he was... Like, I'm always fucking chewing, it's leaning on him like, hey Jeffy, what do I do here? And like, it's not like he's writing the book. What do you think you should do? But he does cool shit, and he's got great kids as a result of that. He's got 2 boys, and I've got 2 boys, and they're a really tight family unit. They love and adore their mother, and they respect their father, and they respect their environment. So I guess as a dad, that's what I'm wanting to get them. More than anything, there's that same sort of setup. Wouldn't hurt to have a fucking massive station on a lakefront as well, but you can't imagine that that's going to be happening.
So you yourself, you grew up down Mount Maunganui?
Yeah, so I went probably to the age of 5. I lived in a coastal Taranaki town called Rahutu.
Oh, yeah.
And that was around by the Barretts. They lived in Pangarehu, which is the next tiny settlement around. My parents were in the top town team with Smiley Barrett as well, back in the day. And they played coastal rugby club as the Rahutu Rugby Club, which was an amalgamated. And then we moved to Te Puna, which is just out of Tauranga, on the way heading into Tauranga from Auckland, I guess. And we had a dairy farm there up in the Minden Hills. And then when I was about 16... moved to the beach. About 16, moved to the beach, and fucking then moved to Auckland at 23, and I'm fucking still here.
How does it...
It sucks. Oh, that wasn't the question.
How does that shape you, though? Like, it's coming off a dairy farm and into somewhere beachy like that. What's the transition like, and what's the lifestyle shift?
And what's the shift then to Auckland, right? So you've gone from dairy farm beach to Auckland. You've probably gone to nah.
I just got progressively lazier and lazier as my life carried on. I've got an older sister, younger sister, and I saw how hard my parents worked on a farm, and just realised really quickly that it wasn't for me. And so I was like, fuck that, and I became a secondary school teacher by default, by doing a primary school degree, and the subject I taught was hospitality and life skills, otherwise known as cooking. Oh yeah. And many a fucking great Kiwi passed master in my class, Kane Williamson, one of my students, Pete Burling, Sammy Kane, 3 great New Zealanders, all from Tauranga Boys College.
Wow.
And then I hated Auckland with a passion. I hated Aucklanders with a fucking passion.
That's right. Aucklanders hate Aucklanders, mate.
Yeah. And I ended up marrying the most Aucklander that there is, Dio girl who's the daughter of a Air New Zealand captain, and like it was just couldn't fucking go any less than plan. And I always want to get back to Tauranga, and I'm Mount Maunganui, Tauranga not so much, but I've never sort of hidden away from that. But the transition from farm life is awesome as a kid because you can do so much loose shit. I mean, you guys are out a little bit wider. You got space, and judging by the vehicle you drive, you make the most of fucking what we've got here, as well as just chewing through dinosaurs. But when we moved to the beach, it was in a great stage in my life, teenage years, and surfing and playing up, and girls and tourists, because most of Auckland comes to the Mount during summer, and that was good times. Moving to Auckland's a bit of a culture shock, but there's like a naivety from being, it's not necessarily a small town, but she's a different kettle of fish up here. And when I moved up here 15 or so years ago, and doing the job that I was doing, it was just, I went from being a cooking teacher on birdseed money to being incredibly well paid and working for one of the biggest global brands in the world, with an MTV. Yeah, you've just got the keys to the city, and it was when there's a whole bunch of people my age doing cool shit. Like that's when Huffle was taking off, and Stolen Girlfriends was, becoming a thing, and all my mates worked in the surf industry, and Dan Gosling, who runs STEM Distribution, has all the brands underneath him. That was fucking absolute heyday. Big bendy Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sundays, and pull your shit back together and hope for the best Monday.
So you're the surfer dude from the Mount, primary school teacher. Tell us that process and how you got to MTV. Is like what?
I thought it makes sense.
For someone looking at that, there's a bit of a jump there that might there's a little bit of a hiccup. There's something's missing.
Yeah, go to uni, get a teaching degree, become a cooking teacher, and then just get a job on MTV.
Yeah,
so everyone does it.
Sense. Yeah, you heard it here first.
That's what they plaster you into at 46.
Yeah, exactly.
I was doing the surfing on the Hyundai Pro Longboard tour. And that's where there's a common misconception in and around the PR saying that I was a pro surfer. I was on a pro surf tour. I was fucking shit at surfing, but I was great at drinking piss, and that's what we did. And it was fun. And so I would surf, and Hyundai came on board, and they were one of the sponsors, and they wanted to make these video clips that kind of justified their sponsorship positioning. And so the person who was running that was ex-BBC, a fine young lady by the name of Claire, who came out, and she was just wicked, and we'd never seen that sort of calibre of person before. And Chris Kirkham, who was her cameraman, started filming stuff, and then from there she got the job as the producer at MTV when it launched. And at the same time I was emceeing bikini comps at the sound show at the Mount, which is called the Sandbar.
Yeah, the perfect resume.
Yeah, hell of a shift during the summer holidays.
Is that during the weekend and then back to the kids on the Monday?
So the Sandbar was an iconic fucking place. So that it would happen basically for the week leading up to New Year's and then the week after. So the bar would open at 10 o'clock. It was like a beach bar, and it was a stage, and we'd just cause chaos for 2 weeks straight. It would ruin me.
Shit, yeah.
And then Brooke Howard-Smith and Amber Peebles were there with the Jim Beam tour that they were doing, and they saw me emceeing, and they're like, well, he doesn't seem that shit. Amber needed a co-host, and that kind of the stars aligned a little bit, and Claire's like, yeah, I know that guy. He did the Pro Longboard tour. So MTV got me up and said, do you want to test for this job? And I was like, oh, fuck, do I have to live in Auckland? They're like, well, not necessarily. I was like, well, yeah, fucking this could be a bit of me.
Done. Yeah. Where do I sign?
Yeah. So I did a trial my trial was basically emceeing a bikini comp at the Po, and then they're like, sweet, we'll take you. And so the fucking rest is history.
Imagine that for any job. Like, that's your trial run.
Yeah.
Like you're in finance. We just want to see bikini, judge this bikini contest before you go into finance. That is incredible.
It was crowd management. I guess there's a few things that was sort of that I had no formal training, which was something that they appreciated, because there's a very formulaic way that you present. It's the fucking magic triangle and the emphasis on words.
MTV was a bit off the cuff, and it was,
Well,
fast
it wasn't
man.
like MTV New Zealand, right? It was a global sort of thing. Right?
Yeah.
So I think maybe in a way that they saw how a Kiwi sort of took to the stage, has that sort of looseness to it and just like see where it goes.
Oh man,
like,
it's mega how well. Like nobody else gets the rubber the green like we do. So we would turn up because we're a very small team. There's basically myself, Ryan, my cameraman, Bronwyn, who's our producer, and that would basically be it. We're a team of 3, whereas every other team would be like 10, 15 people. So when you're going to do the European Music Awards in fucking Madrid or Munich or wherever it is, they send 20 people or they send us 3. So we became the international choice. So we became because we're cheap. Because we cost fuck all. And they're like, oh, I've only got you this, that, and the other thing. But if you fly over anything over 3 hours, MTV, you've got to fly business because that's part of the Viacom rules, which owns MTV.
Oh, what a shame.
And we're fucking more than 3 hours from everywhere. So that was so we get flown all around the world to do heaps of cool shit. But you turn up and you'd be out, I don't know, outside sound check at Munich while Foo Fighters are sound checking. They come out and punch darts while you're punching a dart, and they're like, fucking, hey man, where are you from? Like, I'm from New Zealand. They're like, well, what the fuck, man? What are you doing here? Whereas like, oh, I'm from America. They're like, yeah, give a shit. Whereas there's an intrigue in and around. They're like, what, man? What? And New Zealand's one of those places that not many people have been, but everyone that has been loved it and had great interactions with the people, and they're real chill. So, yeah, we hopefully didn't fucking unravel all the hard work.
Well, you notice it a lot. If you mention you're from New Zealand, everyone's like, oh, I want to go there.
Yeah.
Or it's like everyone's heard about something, or something like just in travels now you've heard overseas. Someone like, oh, are you Australian? You're like, no, I'm from New Zealand. Oh, okay, sweet.
Yeah.
Immediately they're like, oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, it's like the Americans that travel with Canadian flags on their bags as opposed to because they're like, fuck, you get such a better chat. Where are you from in Canada? Fucking Toronto. How about
just for timeline's sake, how old are you when you got picked up by MTV and then started to do all this?
I was about, I would say, about 23.
Perfect age to want to be overseas doing this sort of shit.
Yeah, well, the two options were, because I got my teacher's registration's 2 years, so I got my registration, and then the job came up, and I was dead set on doing my OE like every Kiwi is. I was like, I'm fucking out of here, and I was really lucky to be surrounded by some great teachers who are still teachers at Tauranga Boys College, but really smart individuals. One of them being Daryl Goings, like Sid Goings' nephew, and he's a phenomenal teacher, but a fucking even better bloke. And he was like, you know, it's not going anywhere, bro. You know, teaching, fuck, you know, schools are still going to be here when you get back. You know? Like if you, if it all goes pear-shaped, then you can come back and then you can go and do your OE. But this is an opportunity that's right in front of you. And he's very good. Like that was kind of the first bit of mindfulness that I was taught of be at where your feet at. Like, so fucking play what's in front of you. Because I'm shocking, and even like this fucker's late here this evening just because I'm trying to mastermind shit that's 3 years away, you know, with a bloke. So he was like, just play what's in front of you, be present, and because you end up going, well, I've got to do my OE, and if I don't do my OE, then I've got to get around here, and then by the time I've got this plan, when I get back here, then that's not going to fucking work out. So if I do MTV now, it's going to fuck everything. When he was like, well, you're looking at what could go wrong as opposed to take it, and if it's shit, you're 4 weeks away from handing in your notice.
Yeah, see what could go right.
Yeah, and fucking a lot did.
As a lot of people know and that have heard of you and know you, it has. Yeah. And that's incredible. You know, like people always need to learn to cook. You can go back to myself included. So.
There's always a Form 7 student needing to know how to make a spaggy bowl.
It terrifies my wife when I say, you know what, fuck this, I'll just go back to teaching. She's like, well, I'd marry a motherfucking cooking teacher. She married me with 2 jobs, this, that, and the other thing. And she's like, no, not fucking happening. No way. Yeah, it was great, and it was very fortuitous, but I think it set me on a path of just being open to opportunities and just realise that you're a very small cog in the part of a bigger machine, and that you've got the opportunity to make somebody's day better or shit. And you've got the opportunity to have a good impression on somebody or for them to think you're a fuckwit. And that doesn't mean that you need to dilute yourself down and be everything to everybody, but there's a certain amount of effort that you can put in to the world, and it might as well be positive, and that's sort of fuck it, mate. I'm hands down the luckiest motherfucker I know, but like I'm genuinely surprised I haven't won lotto. Fucking genuinely surprised.
Yeah, what does MTV? You're mixing and mingling, and so what does that do for a world perspective for a 23, 24-year-old that's shooting overseas all the time? it can humble you. It can give you some bragging rights amongst your mates. But I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is, how did it give you? Like a real perspective. Did you come home? Were you treated differently back here, or what was your calendar like? Or
it's weird because because in New Zealand in particular, like we've only got one type of celebrity, and that's the All Blacks, and then then footy players, and then every now and again you'll bump into somebody and you'll go, "Hey, you're that fucking person on Outrageous Fortune or Shortland Street or whatever it is." We don't have enough people to have a celebrity class, so I don't think that you've got. I don't think that New Zealand has celebrities. I think that we've got people that you know because you've seen them on something, or you know because you've heard them on something, and that doesn't mean that you're doing anything great. Like, I mean, with the exception, of maybe Israel Adesanya, who
he's gone international.
He's just a big fucking deal. And then some of our cricket players, but even then, it's sort of. Like Richie McCaw can go to Las Vegas and not a single person stop him for a picture. Like Israel Adesanya can't go fucking anywhere without somebody going, "You're Israel Adesanya."
Right. It's like an American-based sport sort of thing. You might get Stephen Adams, who we know because he's a Kiwi, but in America is probably more known, if not, because he's playing in quote unquote like an American sport.
Yeah.
So that might be another option.
It is different, and particularly the way that you don't change. It's the way that people. It's the way that people interact with you. Yeah. And then it's kind of like I'd never come running up to you and go, "Oi, can I have a picture?" And then and you go, "Oh, hey man, I'm in the middle of having lunch with my mates," and then go, "Well, you're a shit cunt," or like Rhythm and Vines, 10 years, 10 years at Rhythm and Vines, and people would walk past me and go, "That's that fuckwit Jay," and I'd turn around and go, "Are you all good?" And they're like, "Can I have a picture?" And then they go, "Sweet." And then I'd be like, "Oh, yeah, cool, whatever, have a picture." And then when I'd be walking off, and they go, "Yeah, you fuckwit." It's like, you asked me for a picture. I'm not asking, I'm just trying to. So there's a bit of that, but for the most part, most people understand that you're a person, but they have a preconceived idea of, well, you think you're a big fucking deal, particularly when you go back somewhere like to a place like not necessarily Mount Maunganui, Tauranga, but you come back and everyone's like, "Oh, mate, you think you're the fucking bee's knees now." It's like, people I went to school with that I would have been in a class with for a year, and they'll message me and I won't get back to them in a timely fashion, which is what they're after. Because if you look at my phone, is absolute fucking shambles. Like 700 unfucking answered emails. Like that's the daily scenario that I'm running, and that's what the inbox on my Instagram looks like as well.
Well, we count ourselves.
Yeah,
we count ourselves pretty lucky. We're 1 in 700. We just somehow.
But it pops up. Like if you get me when I'm looking at it, then I get it. You know, and it's just so happened. But then it's because we replied, and then we start a conversation through it. It makes it easier.
Yeah.
But it could have easily just whistled past, and you'd be like, "What a rude motherfucker." But it's just because, and that's me, and I've got nobody following me. Imagine what it looks like for someone like Israel Adesanya, or people get butthurt that Dan Carter doesn't message him back, and you're like, "Motherfucker, if you saw what he's going through." But I think it's one of those. Francis Molman, who's a chef from Patagonia, phenomenal human, fantastic person. I say phenomenal a lot. They've turned it into a drinking game on the rocks, so fucking hopefully people aren't playing along here. He'll be hammered. But he's a fantastic person, and he had a great way of saying, it's like, I appreciated the time that we spent together as mates when we were at school. But that was 30 years ago, and we're different people. And we have nothing in common now, and I'm not gutted about that, because I treasure this memory that we had. Like I treasure memories that I've got with my mates that I was friends with when I was 6, and some of those people I'm still friends with now. Yeah. But I still have friends that I haven't seen in years. I can catch up with that are cool, and then there's people that I had to spend a lot of time with that I'll never see again, and that's cool too. Like I don't get gutted about it, but people are like, "Man, you haven't fucking called me in 6 years."
But you don't owe them anything, do you?
No, I think there's an expectation. If there is an expectation you put on any friendship or any relationship, you're always going to be let down, because you're the one making up you're the one that sets the rules for that the other person doesn't even fucking know are happening. No. Like you're in a game you don't even know the rules for. So I don't do that. I'm pretty fast and loose and give a fuck, man. I know who I am. I don't get gutted about it. I know that I'm not
that's a bumper
person.
sticker, right?
I saw an article the other day. Nixon Clark, after moving from Mai to The Edge, and he was saying, there's a whole lot of people that aren't happy that I've made this decision. And he was like, well, why can't I choose to better my career?
Yeah.
And I don't know, it ties back to that whole New Zealand tall poppy thing that we've got going on. Like you said, Israel, he spoke about it at the Halbergs last year.
Yeah.
And
well, how many people do you know that, say, for example, if any of your mates, and people get, I know what you're talking about with Nixon, people got gutted with Nixon because they felt that he was leaving them behind. But if your friend, say if either of you got some crazy ass job in Perth and you're like, man, I'm going to be on fucking $200-300 grand a year, you're not going to be like, you're fucking too good for us.
Yeah.
Fuck you. It'd be like, man, I appreciate you, and when we catch up, I'm going to make it count and know that we've banked all this beforehand. Whereas,
take me with you.
Yeah, that's what it is. A lot of those long tenure radio people, you grew with them.
Yeah.
So when it's time for to leave, you're like, you brought me here and now you're leaving.
Yeah, there is a bit of that, but I love that. That's why I love working on the Rock, because you could say, say for example, you're a Chuck Taylor's guy, you're a Chuck's guy. I could tell you that Vans fucking 10 times better, the latest Vans, blah blah blah, and anyone else like the Edge, any of those pop stations, any of that other stuff, they'd be like, oh yeah, fucking bright shining lights, I'll come over here. Whereas the Rock are like, I don't give a fuck. I wear Chuck Taylors, and that's who I am, and that's why we have, in my opinion, and I don't even think it's biased because it's factual, is that the Rock audience are just the best because they are who they are, and they don't care about what anyone else thinks about them, and it's just so refreshing to hang around with people like that. Some people are like, they're a bit rough around the edges. Like, what are you talking about? A buddy of mine listens to our show, and he's the CEO of a fucking $30-40 million company. Nick Mowbray listens to us, and then we've got clubhouses that play us in them. It's just there is not that. It's not
faceless.
It's not a smash a fucking coffin of Waitakere Dakaris and be a shit human. There are some high level operators. It's just, it takes all sorts. They're a good bunch.
That's amazing. So moving from MTV, and now you obviously in with the Rock crowd and all that, what was your next transition in your career? So after, and I know you've got a point that you want to get back to, but how did the MTV stuff go, and then how did you get into the Rock? I know Jared's got a few things he wants to talk about, the MTV stuff, but how was that whole MTV thing? How long did that go for? And then what transitioned you into where you are now?
So MTV was, I'm a big believer in make space and then leave it open for somebody else. And so me being on MTV more than anything should have been, but wasn't quite. It should have been a signal to somebody that's not a fucking great looking bloke, that isn't clever, that isn't a traditional broadcaster, that isn't got any TV experience, that they can work for the baddest fucking brand in the world and live the dream. And so if I didn't do that as a job, which was what I wanted to do, then I fucked up. I didn't show how cool that job was. And it was disappointing. I was there for 6 years, not a single motherfucker applied for my job, and that broke my heart.
No, so we were talking about this before we came here, right? But how does Joe Blogg, myself, I'm sitting on the couch eating Doritos, whatever it is, drinking Pals, and I'm watching you on MTV, and I go, fuck, I want that guy's job. How do I get from there to there? What's the...
That's the thing. They probably...
you go.
They probably don't know the backstory in a case if you got picked off the longboard tour.
Yeah.
They're probably sitting there thinking, man, he went to broadcasting school, he's done this, and this, he probably edits the whole thing. And look the part, beat
I think about things differently. So I want to position myself in a role or a job or a vocation or a business or whatever it is. I will look at what it is and then work backwards, and that's what primary teaching does. So if I want you to buy Pals, then I will come up with a product, and then I will mastermind it in reverse so that you think that you've come up with the decision to drink Pals. And so for me, that's teaching basically. That's basic form. Yeah.
So your teaching degree helped you get on MTV.
So that's a terrible example because I'm using alcohol and kids in the same setup. But say for example, the example that we used with DC. So DC was an iPhone user, and we wanted to do this campaign with him and get him to what they call white glove across to Samsung. And so he was always going to be a Samsung ambassador. Fucking no longer is, but was at the time. he was always going to be one. So we needed to take people on that journey so that they felt that they could have some weight in the opinion that he was, or the decision that he was making. So the deal was done with Samsung, then we worked in reverse. How are we going to make him transition over there and make people feel like they're a part of this? So the first thing he did, the first post that he did was plugging his phone in at like 9:30. How many fucking people hate doing this? Because Samsung's battery is superior to iPhones, but it's just something that resonates straight away. Yep. What phone has the best battery life? Like he hasn't even discussed, like in everyone's mind, he doesn't even know Samsung exists. And so all these fucking Oppo and this, that, and the other thing. Someone puts up Samsung. Hey man, I've heard heaps of people say Samsung. Anyone got one? Are they any good? What's so good about them? Then people are on their phones and fucking computers going, hey, apparently it's got the best battery. This is fucking awesome. And then at the end of it, he goes, hey, cheers for getting me onto this phone, guys. It's fucking awesome. I love the new Samsung. And everyone's like, wicked. Yeah. That's what teaching is reverse engineering the way that you get people to the answer that you want them to
make them think it was their idea.
Yeah. And so when it came to work for me, I was like, I want that job, so how can I make it happen? And so when I was at MTV, I knew that holds some credit. And we worked closely with ZM at that time because we didn't have an affiliate TV partner because The Edge had C4 and Juice TV was doing their own thing. So went into ZM and was like, I want a job in radio because radio's got, for those people that don't know, longevity and a shitload of money. Like fucking Mike Hoskins on $1.3 million a year. Would you get out of bed at 4:30 for that? Fuck yes, you would. They're not saying that all radio hosts are on that money. Roger's on something not fucking too dissimilar. That's why he's got 3 million houses. That's a lie. Apologies, Roger.
Congrats to the milestone.
Yeah. 30 years,
30
man.
years.
You don't stay at the top of your game for that long without being fucking people that everyone wants to hear.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And so when it came to getting into radio, I knew that there was going to be longevity. I wanted to get out of MTV, so I started to bridge it and went in there and was like, I want a job at ZM. And Bosto was like, all right, we'll give you a trial shift. And I've got the security of having a job already, so I can try whatever the fuck it is I want without knowing that, if I fail, who cares? I'm just having a shot. And
you've always got teaching as well after that.
I got backstop on backstop on backstop. I'm at the point now where I wouldn't be taking back teaching because they're like, you're a fucking liability.
Worst comes to worst, it's back to surfing heaps and sausages.
Worst case scenario, I'm back to MTV. And so we get into ZM and do a trial shift, and he's like, you're fucking unemployable. Like, you're that shit at radio. Like, it actually fucking hurts to hear. And I was like, okay, so how can I get around that? I'm never going to be a by myself radio host. So boom, along comes Flynn Diesel, and I jump on with Flinny, and we worked really well together. Technically, he's fucking clever. He's got a great radio brain, and we worked together really well. And then from that, I wanted to jump into Hodaki. Jumped into Hodaki for a couple of years. A little bit of shenanigans with a contract, which ended up with me just fucking them for a great contract. and then at the end of that contract, they fucked me. And so I was like, I'm done with the radio industry. And then there was the opportunity to work with Duncan Hyde, who in my eyes is the greatest broadcaster that I've ever had the pleasure of fucking being around. Like, he's just a real forward-thinking, progressive, awesome dude that is exactly what the world needs, and in particular New Zealand men. He's fucking awesome. Phenomenal. Across the board. Yeah,
great writer.
He is great. He's this year alone he's redefined what radio is 4 times already in the way that we compete, the way that we earn money, how we prizify our show, and what it is that we do to build a community, because that's effectively what you're wanting to do in a show, is build a community. And so that's basically how I ended up getting into there. But when I was at MTV, I was dating a chick who worked at 42 Below. I knew that Jeff Ross was running it. I wanted to get in and meet him, so I just turned up and was like, I'll fucking work for free. I know that you're going to be busy leading into Christmas because that's when piss is flying out there and you need someone to wrap up boxes or whatever it was. And he kept walking in and was like, who the fuck is that guy? And hi Jeff, how's it going, mate? He's like, am I paying that guy? I'm like, no, I'm not paying. Fuck, sweet as it. And then
security
was just in his face, and I just persevere. I just don't give up. I've got a dogged determination to get what it is. Same with my missus. Just fucking wore her down. Just fucking wore her down. The gazelle out on the plains, and I was just the fat, lazy lion. I just knew that I could walk. She'd run, but I'd eventually get her.
And you gave her twins.
Yeah. And even then, I'm not meant to. I torched my sack so bad through MTV that they were like, mate, your swimmers are so shit they don't even work. And I was like, fuck, I always wanted twins.
What?
And they're like, yeah, I always wanted twins.
Wow. Okay, that's crazy. I'm the same. I've always wanted twins.
One thing I've gotten out of this so far is there's a whole lot of like, I wanted to do this, and then it happened.
And then you got it.
Mate, I get why you say you're lucky.
Yeah, but it was literally, though, like, your swims are so shit. We can't even, because what normally happens, we went through IVF. What normally happens is they get you to whack off in a cupboard, which is fucking awkward. But you change your mindset and you go, this is grubby, and then it becomes fun. And then hand it over, and they go get a whole bunch of it and dump it in with some eggs, and then the best one out of the batch swims in, and that's what you call natural selection.
Yeah.
Mine just fucking sat there just like, up to fuck
the
all.
stanky leg.
Yeah. So they grabbed the best of a shit bunch and punched it into the egg to take all the hard yards out of it, lazy little fuck. And then that split and became identical twins, and that's why I've got identical twins.
Wow.
And I was like, what are the chances of that? And they're like, 1 in 4,000, pretty common, mate, no fucking way.
1 in 4,000.
I was like, no, don't fucking buy a lotto ticket on 1 in 4,000 odds.
Yeah, shit.
I punted on the Warriors for less.
Oh, don't get me started.
Don't get me started. I lost a bit of money on them this year.
13, mate, I've been going 13 plus every game. It'll come round.
Yeah.
It'll come round. So that's, basically that's how we ended up. That's where we ended up here. And it's just through trying different stuff, always thinking, what is it that I want to be doing next, and just kind of figuring
thoughts, it out. All that sort of stuff.
You talk about the longevity in radio. I remember, like, back in the day, I'm a tradie now, but back in the day when I was in high school, I was like, I want to do radio. That's what I want to do. I've always been interested in media and everything like that. And my pop sat me down, and he's like, tradie as well. And he's like, look, mate, there's about 6 of them. They do it for about 40 years, and a job will pop up one day, but you probably won't get it. Yeah. So you want to look to get something else.
Have a backup.
Yeah. No shit, man. And it's fucking sound advice, because it literally is that. So there's an incredible book by a guy called Malcolm Gladwell called Outliers, and it goes through all these things, and it's just, it fucking hurts to learn it. But we're given these bodies, we don't even know how to use them to the best of their ability. It's like being given a fucking Ferrari, and we all drive it in first gear for our whole lives. And then just as you're about to kick the bucket, you're like, there's a fucking second gear in here, you know? And then it's like, what a waste. And so I think that we do that a lot, and we don't realise how much we're missing. So in this book, Outliers, so even as an example, all my mates, I'm born in February, and all of my mates that I'm really, really tight with, my childhood friends, are all born January, February, March, April, maybe May at the latest. All of us, always the same. And the reason why we are close friends and we grew up together is because the cutoff for footy is 29th of January. And so if you're born after the 29th of January, then you're put into a footy team. So I was the oldest, basically, for my footy team, because I was the first, the cutoff, like straight after the cutoff, February the 8th, I'm in there. All my mates that I played with, we all played Goldfields, fucking Ty Mitchell, under 13s, 16s, 15s, whatever it was, and we'd always be in the same team. And what happens is we get the best coaching, so then you make it into the better team next year because you're better than the other people that you've been around. Yeah. If you're born in December and you're making it well in footy, then you're doing fucking well, because you're at the end of the tail. So it dawned on, like, this was a realisation that most of my childhood friends, I'm friends with them because we're in the same footy team, because we're born around the same age and we had the same experiences growing up. And there is luck, and there is a certain amount of luck in everything that you do. Like, people were going, I'm going to make a fucking NFT right now. Fucking ship sailed, But if you got into Bitcoin when they were paying miners 15% of their wages 6 years ago in Australia into Bitcoin.
I got a bad story about that.
Yeah, it fucking hurts. But you go, well, I should have got into it. But I remember when people were coming to me going, hey, you can buy Bitcoin for $1,500. I was like, you're out of your fucking head. And then I know people that were getting Bitcoin dollar for dollar, like dollar for coin in Australia. And you kind of, there is moments in time where shit happens, like Microsoft and Bill Gates. It's a fucking good read. I could punish you with the book, but yeah, Malcolm Gladwell, Outliers, is a great one. And then another book, Sebastian Junger, Atomic Habits, or Tribes, one of them. Tribes, Atomic Habits, and Outliers. And Tipping Point's another one. If you're into business and wanting to make a product, Tipping Point is great, because you go, fuck, it's so much easier than it actually, fucking hell, they're so lucky, there's a certain amount of
that
it.
Was my follow-up was, like, people that know your story, do you get people coming up to you and go, hey, Jay, what's the next move? Yeah. You know, like trying to get a bit of insight. Like,
this guy's in the roll of the dice for a bit.
Yeah.
It's like people do, but it'd be like leaning over somebody's shoulder that's at a casino and running hot on a fucking roulette wheel, and you're like, I'm betting on your shoulder, and you're going good. But do you know how many times that guy sat at the table and fucking lost everything? Yeah. And that's when you only see the good. Like, nobody comes up to me and goes, Tell me about the shittest business decision you've ever made. How much did it cost you? You know, like, no one gives a fuck about that.
No.
Like, and for everything that's gone well for me, for every relationship that's gone well, there's probably been 10 that haven't. For every business decision that's gone well, there's probably been 100 that haven't. For every idea that's worked, there's 1,000 that haven't. So people only see the fucking bold highlighter headlines with the black pen around the outside, you know? They don't see the fucking pages of scribbling. And it's someone summed it up beautifully and eloquently. It's like congratulating somebody for being pregnant, but you don't know how many times you've been fucked to get there. And I was like, that is bang on. Yeah. Sometimes first go. Sometimes 10 years. Absolutely being thumped.
Shit.
So what's the... Like, it looks like, with the whole radio thing, it looks like you turn up, you jump in with a dunk, you have a laugh, and then you fuck off, and it's like, oh, mate, he's got a 4-hour day.
Pretty much.
What? Yeah. Oh, yeah? No. Next question.
No, so we...
What's the inside baseball on how it all fucking peels together in terms of, like, pre-prod and stuff like that?
Yeah.
I mean, you've got the benefit of a listenership where you can be like, hey, guys, what do you think? And then you can feed off that, but how much of it is... in the back room planning out how it's going to roll out?
Yeah, so this probably will ruin it for a lot of people, but if you could fucking turn up at 3 o'clock and turn the microphone on and fucking hope for the best.
That's what we do.
And it works.
They like the honesty, you know, and just whatever we feel in that day. Yeah.
For us, it's slightly different because when I came back into it, I said to Dunk, this is what I want. I'm very specific about what it is I want out of this. I want to, there's a lot of unfinished business that I've got within the industry, and I want to be making sure that you're on the same page with me. And I don't want it to be tits and ass and fuck you and take the piss out of you as a mate. And like, if there's banter, then it needs to kind of be a bit more sensible. And that's why I'm swearing and, you know, terribly mouthed in this, but
fuck it.
It's fine.
You almost hold that in when you're on the show, and it's, you know, like, it just needs to come out at the end of it. But there's our days structured loosely in and around. Dunk will be up at about 5:30ish because that's the only time he gets to himself. So 5 o'clock in the morning, he's planning out the show, placing the show, and getting some bits and pieces. So
wow. So sorry to interrupt. You don't have like a major like producers kind of running the show, and you guys just follow suit.
Yeah,
it is Dunk himself doing a lot of work.
Yeah, wind it back a little bit. So the team that makes up our show is Tegan, who's our show producer and show boss, young 23-year-old lass with a background in sales and radio, particularly in integrated solutions, and that becomes important when I'll explain more of that. Caleb, who is our tech producer, so he is a fucking wizard with all the technical stuff, Pro Tools, and how to run the desk and everything like that. So he cuts, edits, phone calls, fuck everything on the fly at pace, like the fucking Rain Man. And he's 6'6" and 120 kilos, and looks like he could run on for the All Blacks, and he's a rugby referee, and he's 23. He's an interesting bloke, and he's awesome at what he does. Then there's Dunk, and his role is to run the desk. So he does everything, and what they call is the anchor, and his role is to back announce, to forward sell, to talk and tease, and basically set the scene. And then I'm like the sprinkles. Yeah. You can have a show without sprinkles. You can't have a show without any of those other three. So if I'm off, nothing fucking changes. If one of those other people aren't there, we're in shit.
Yeah,
it's funny. You're describing all these people, and I'm like, yeah, that Jared does that. Jared does that. And I was like, what? I'm like yourself. And I was like, what's he going to call it? The sprinkles. I was like, same thing.
You are the sprinkles. And so what we wanted to do with our show in particular when we came back, so we went to the finance team and we said we had a tech producer. But we wanted to bring somebody in young. Our other producer, Jeremy, who wrote great parody songs, was just in a different era of radio and a different operating space. And we wanted somebody younger that kept us young, because fuck, we have married, kids. I'm almost 40. Dunk's not far off. And our target demographic is 22 to 44-year-old males. Like that is our core demo. So we're number one in our core demo, but are we servicing our core demo? Because realistically, we get into the fucking top end of that, and does a 22-year-old bloke give a shit about what a 40-year-old married fuckwit is talking about? Chances are pretty low. No. So with a 23-year-old, you kind of pull that back a little bit. So we went to the finance team or the CFO and said, we will fund our own tech producer and our exec producer, because the way that our show works is that we don't want it to be too heavy a lifting. We want you to listen to our show and be able to take something away from it. That's what I do. The must watches, the must listens, take my fucking money, and it shouldn't be, hey, I'd chop my cock off, fucking tell me when you did, and then call in for it. It shouldn't be that heavier lifting. Like, you're there driving home and you want to be inspired, you want to increase your chances of having sex that night, you want to fucking maybe even think about what you're going to be having for dinner, you want to be, then we data mine our audience to the nth degree, and the number one thing that popped up was, I want to spend more time with my mates that isn't drinking piss, and I want to be better with my money. And so that is the focus for the majority of the audience that listen to us. So then we double down on that. So we'll get in a money man, and this is how you be better with your cash. And here's some experiences that we're doing in conjunction with Jack Daniels, but aren't focused on smashing piss. It's about making it count and going out there and an amazing fishing trip in Fiordland. So
having a good time,
It sounds like hopefully it sounds like we just turn up and hit microphones and we have fun, but there's a lot of psychology in behind it, the way that people listen.
Oh, look, we understand that as well. You know, like with what we're doing, there's a lot behind the scenes rather than just turn up. You know, I make a joke saying that we just turn up and flick the mics on. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
You know, but one of my favourite sort of, I don't know if you call them segments at the moment, is your nicknames that's going on. You know what I mean?
I've taken off.
It is phenomenal. You know, Jared and I, we're both tradies, both builders as such. And it's such. Well,
such. What the fuck does that mean? If you were working on someone's house and I'd be like,
builder, I'm not a builder.
Well, I'm a builder. Jared does foundations. I didn't want to have to get into the. We've talked about it
the nuance of the
a million times.
You're the muscle. You're the fucking
shit.
So we're both tradies, and we absolutely love the whole nicknames thing. Because there's a lot that we use on site as well. It's great. I was just wondering, like, how did that come about? Like, was that something that was in the works and it's kind of just taken off, and you're like, we're going to stick with that, or is it just like, and do you have a favorite or something that you also use around the studio that you're like, fuck, and now that's stuck on someone around the studio?
Yeah, I remember that break. It happened at 4:40, and I was like, we're never doing fucking anything better than this ever again. Like, because we don't make contrived radio. It's live. More often than not, we record some phone calls because we record them long form so they can be chopped down so that we can play them on podcasts in their entirety, so people get the whole chance to have their chat. But anyway, Dunk's popped up. Fuck, I'm lazy because I never check my shit. And he's like, there's these nicknames that came up on Lad Bible, and we're like, he goes, do you want to hear them? I was like, no, tell me on the show so I can react to them. Like, have an honest reaction. And so he starts reading these things out, and I'm fucking roaring. And our most successful break, I would go as far as saying the most successful villarific break in terms of the virality of that piece that came from it, was that nicknames video. It's had like 51 million spins on TikTok.
Wow.
And as a result of that, we've got 33,000 people that download our podcast from the UK every day, and about the same, if not more, in Australia. Wow. Purely from that, just from that one break, and then that's where incredible. They all come from. Like, we get messages every single day from people that listen to us in Scotland, Wales, Ireland, and the UK. And like,
and are these people? Are these people sending them in as well?
Yeah, like, most of them come from there.
Yeah, right. Okay,
the on-site banter over there.
Yeah, they've got some hilarious banter, and like, some of the nicknames are like, I'm sorry, but like Kiwis, we don't quite hit that sort of.
The level
niche.
of intelligence. Yeah.
I wasn't going to say it.
Mate, fuck, no kidding. It's the way that they deliver stuff. is just, and obviously it's an accent, and they find our accent funny, so there's kind of, and we've got a similar rapport. In Australia, you can't say any of the shit we say in radio because you just basically get taken off air.
Really?
And in the UK, you can't even talk about hunting in the UK. So there's a whole bunch of people over there that are missing out, tradies, expats. Like my father-in-law got sent that nicknames video from a Malaysian Airlines captain who got sent it from an Emirates captain who got sent it from somebody else that was fucking flying for British Airways. And I was like, check out these guys in New Zealand. And he got sent, he's like, that's my fucking son-in-law. Like, if you told me at the end of if you told me at the beginning of last year, the most successful break in radio you'll ever do in your fucking career will be Dunk reading a Facebook post and you not saying a fucking word, I'd be like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing. It seems like low-hanging fruit, but fuck it.
Well, I'm pretty lucky.
Yeah,
so.
mate, no shit.
That's the power of freaking social media. You cut it up, you chuck it on, and then it does the work itself.
Yeah.
It was that when it every single thing in that first, I don't think we'll ever beat the first one. Like the last one we did, I think kind of came close, but the collection of them, and because I'd never heard them, like we're up to like nicknames 14 now, and some of them are good, but none of them are fucking like. I worked with a bloke who's we called the clock. Because he had fucking one hand bigger than the other. Yeah. And there's a dude, we didn't know why his name was Kith. Keith, because he was missing an eye and his name was Keith. Like fucking Uncle Ben, who had a cyst removed from his testicle, so he had a boil in his bag. And then I was like, fuck, at this stage I'm on the ropes. And then he's like, this one guy had one leg longer than the other, so it made his head wobble when he walked, and they called him the sniper's nightmare. I was fucking done. Like I was fucking done. I'm a very visual person, and everything about. And even funnier, I got a message from a guy who works as a part of a military deployment thing, and he's like, he's a sniper, and he basically goes, I would have fucking put one straight through that cunt's chest anyway. I wouldn't be aiming for his head. So it's like but it's what happened is that when we posted it and we tagged in Lad Bible, because it's their proprietary stuff. And then they reposted it, which then it was like 14 million people see it, and then
it takes on.
And then it became fucking TikTok fodder and chopped up and played on like Footy Show, and like it just went bananas. And then people tried to replicate it in different radio shows around the world, and it just went nowhere because everyone's peeling them, going, start trying to fucking rip off those guys in New Zealand. It's like it's not even our shit. Like we're reading out your stuff, but we're like a publishing agent for people that are sending it in. So then they're invested. And now it's gotten to a point where, it's just such an international audience. Like it's massive. Like we'd love to. There's a big party that happens at the end of every year for The Rock, and all things going to plan. I'd love to bring somebody over from the UK and from Australia, and that just because I've never been to New Zealand. Fuck, most of them didn't even know that New Zealand existed. Like, there's random messages.
Australia.
What state is that in?
It's a crazy setup. But that's how, like you talked about it before. Get a trade because there's fuck all jobs, and then you're fucked. Now is that time again where all of a sudden, this is just as equally as important to people as radio. And you can't trust radio to the level in which you used to, because through COVID, our fucking station would have sunk if it wasn't to be propped up by the government buying all those ads to talk fucking bing bong, fucking Squid Games COVID music,
was it like the conch shell or whatever? It's changed now. It's no longer bing bong. They've changed the
because it gave everyone PTS fucking dick. So
it's now like a.
They got tore apart as well.
This is just as important to people now as radio, and with things like Rover and with Spotify, I've got a pod called Give Me Five, which is basically interesting people telling me stories and rationale behind why they pick these songs. And it's a radio show, effectively. There's a chat, and then it plays a song, and then there's a chat, and then it plays a song. And we're doing curation with NZ Rugby to do fucking playlists for the buses and playlists for the players. And the Rugby World Cup Women's 2021 played in 2022 is coming up. Like, there's so much more of this immediacy. And the All Blacks, or in particular the All Blacks, prefer this medium because they control every word that comes out of here. If they have a conversation with me, I can snip together the words "go fuck yourself," and then they were all being said by Fozzie, and I'm like, and he told me to go fuck myself. There's such a level of mistrust in what would be considered traditional media now, I think.
Right.
So, Jay, so it's game day for you guys, right? I don't know about Jared, but I'm a massive Countdown fan.
Yes.
All right. Not just the rock. I will admit it. You know,
George Countdown goes good too.
Yeah,
Club classics.
Club classics. My sort of jam. But tell me, what's the process? How does it feel around the rock when this countdown's going on 4 weeks straight?
Fucking pandemonium.
Yeah.
Well, it's mate. We have, because we're the glory pigs of it, I guess. The team that put it all together, because the votes come in and tabulate. It's amazing. Like, some people, I don't know what they're up to, but they just try and fuck with it and put in shit songs. Like, I put in my music's not everyone's music taste, I understand that, but in 2,000 tunes, I can't get my fucking 20 in, and Love Shack's in there, for fuck's sake. Like, surely there can't be that many people that like it. This year in particular will be, there's so many people that set up multiple email accounts so that they can put in shit songs and kind of skew there's some weird shit that ends up in there. And then obviously, that's why everyone listens to it. It's the biggest rock music countdown globally. And on the final day, radio stations internationally take our live feed as their show. Wow. Like, it's fucking unreal. Like,
surely it's the biggest countdown, just regardless of the genre. I don't know of anything bigger than 2,000. Like, or
numbers wise, it's massive. In terms of the people that, you know, like, there's, I'd say the biggest one, the Triple J. Fucking Hot 100. That's an absolute monster. But in terms of the number of tunes that have been in it traditionally, 2000 was fucking real punchy. Whether or not, I mean, this is probably speaking outside of school, whether or not we go 2000 again, or we tighten it back up to 1500.
So you're not doubling down, going 2,500 or something. You going over the 5 weeks.
12,000 songs.
It makes, basically, it works out to be, you know, that many weeks of radio. Like, that's the and it has to be, everything has to be, like, if you've got full 15-minute songs that you're playing, like, they need to be in there, and that needs to be scheduled in, and you need to finish at this time on this day, so everything gets put in reverse, like, you know, once again, that teaching setup. And then everyone knows, because people will come up to us with, like, 1B5s that have got every single year's countdown written in them, handwritten in them, and they can just see the patterns, because generally speaking, the same number of people will vote for their favourite songs, and that kind of, there's not too much that can change it. I think Blind Spot had a real heavy bolter last year, because they just have a massive fan base, and they fucking upticked that song without ever hearing it, and that got debuted on the Rock 2000. But I mean, I love it. It's a lot of hard work, because me and Duncan in particular love getting those real deep, dark interview clips or facts about the songs to kind of bring it to life.
That's what you like hearing,
and you find out real weird and interesting and cool shit, and it's now gotten to a point where this year in particular, I think it's got such a following globally that the record labels that represent these artists in advance saying, these are the tracks that look like they're going to be in there, give us something about those songs so that you can, you know, they can be preloaded. So I'd say this year, if it happens, will be the best one yet.
Is that
I have to say, if it happens, just to build the intrigue, I'd fucking probably put the bottom. I'd put the house on it because it's just such a massive part. Like, we were the first to do it, and I say we, you know, The Rock was the first to do it, and everyone followed suit. And there's a reason, because everyone, you're the same with the ones that you listen to on George. You're like, fucking should have been higher, and fuck that song. Like, it creates that banter, and people get real gutted and tell you that they're real gutted about it. But they more often than not, people are messaging and going, man, I didn't know that, and fuck, I haven't heard the song in so long.
That's the other reason. I love listening to, like, around that 500 sort of, you know, like songs that are like really, you know, decent, good sort of thing, but haven't heard in like forever. You just forgot it kind of existed. And you're like, holy shit.
It's not every note of Freebird, just...
The Let There Be Rock one that we just did recently, which was 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, you know, basically it was a day each. And then we took the top 100 songs and played them down. And it was like, that was awesome. And then we did a recap of the top 5, because they were so good, the top 5, so that all of the number 5s from all of those decades, and then played all of the number 4s, and then played all the number 3s, and then played all the number 2s and all the number 1s. And it was fucking awesome. The 70s was the best. Like, I could listen to that fucking 100 to 1 or 1 to 100. Like, either way, I didn't care. Like, that was cool. That was... That was
on
mega.
shuffle.
Yeah, and people want those as like now formulated playlists in which they could listen to because people want to have control over the music that they listen to. So understandably so, there will be, I would say, in my time in radio, a move to you choose who you want to have chat. You might like the Morning Rumble and as your breakfast show, but you might like listening to fucking drum and bass. And so their chats will then be interjected into drum and bass, and then you might like listening to Sin and Brooke in the afternoon, and then by then you're sort of into smooth jazz. And so then you get jazz music which plays in between their breaks. So it won't necessarily be genre specific.
So this is a good segue to one of the questions that I was really wanted to ask you. You know, like as a tradie, we don't really like to go home and then build when we get home.
Yeah.
How are you with your sort of genre of music? Like, is it you're listening to the rock when you're working? Obviously, you got your headphones on and you listen to the music. Do you get it in the car on the way home and flick over to My FM or something different? Are you solely on the rock genre that you're listening to?
No, not at all, man. I would be what you'd call like a fucking P3. My radios are set to P3s basically. So like, if you imagine like P1 would be like if you'd imagine a target. So P1 are the people that just never listen to anything else.
Right. Yep.
P2 are people that kind of go, well, I'm predominantly listening to the rock, but if I hear fucking Freebird one more time, I'm jumping over to George. And then when I hear something that sounds like a fucking meth head's panel beating of fucking something, then I'll jump back. And then there's P3, which basically just punches across finding songs that they like all the time. So my preference is the rock, but within that playlist, I hear a lot of that music, so I want to listen to something else. So I listen to a shitload of podcasts. I listen to a shitload of other radio stations to see, because it's just steel sharpens steel. Like, how does Howard Stern put together a break, and how does he conduct an interview, and how does Joe Rogan conduct an interview in a long form, and how do these different speakers conduct themselves when they're in these chats? And that's probably bleeding a bit too much into our show because I like long form. I like this. I prefer this. Whereas in our commercial radio, you've got 3.5 minutes to back announce a song, say the radio station, say the time, and then start a chat, probably put in a liner which has been paid for by a client, then finish the chat, say what's coming up, tease, hook the next song, and then go. So that's 10 things you got to squeeze in 3 minutes. And then basically, so I'm like, so anyway, Dunk's like, fucking wrap it up.
You're just the sprinkles over here.
Fucking Mr. Sprinkles. Fuck, we've had enough. I prefer the longer form sort of conversation. So I punch around a lot. When I ride on my bike, I listen. I got a cardo unit, so I listen to tunes the whole time that I'm on a bike because I like a soundtrack to fucking riding, and that could be if I'm wanting to chill out, I could be listening to some, I don't know, fucking Teddy Swims or something random like, I don't know, just been listening to Open Souls and listening to old Block Party recently, and then I'll listen to Sparta or I'll listen to some old Czech stuff. I found Motorcade was the great Kiwi band that are old, and their stuff's now on Spotify, so I can listen to that. Like, I listen to a bunch of different shit and then build radio stations off those, like Block Party Radio is fucking great. It plays hell tunes, and then I'll listen to, I don't know, the Higgs Boxing Blues by Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, which basically takes me half an hour to get to work, and that's one song, you know. And there's just different stuff in the way people put things together, and or I'll listen to Wax Mustang and, you know, John Wayne, or like just I'm fucking all over the joint. I'm a shambles. But that's I like that because
the music you'll listen to everything, but it's more you like to sharpen your tools, you know, like when you listen to it, it's about how you can make that craft a bit better.
Well, the last thing you want to be is complacent.
And then there's like breakfast radio. There's a psychology in behind it. Like, I know that when Mal's starting to read news, that I need to be taking my kids to school, and so I listen for that coming up. And when she reads news, I need to be walking out the door. So a lot of people time their life to that. So if you're in Auckland and traffic's playing and you're not at the tip-top corner, you know you're fucked and you're going to be late to work. And if you're past it and it plays, then you know that you're ahead of time. And that's like, there's weird things. There's an intimacy in breakfast radio that you don't get in any other day part, because it's fucking vulnerable. Like, you're in the nude, like standing in front of the mirror getting changed, and Roger's going fucking rightio. Like there's only certain people. That's why people like breakfast radio in particular, that you let them into your house, you let them into your lives at a very, very particular stressful part of the day. Whereas drive is like, fuck yeah, mate, I'm done, and we're unwinding. Whereas the other ramp up, and we're the chill out.
How does your music taste drip feed down into your boys? Are they keen into, or like, are you kind of like, hey, this is what you want to listen to? Or are they kind of are they, as they get older, are they finding their way with what they like? Or?
Yeah, that's funny, man. That's a good question, because my music taste is what my dad's record collection is.
Yeah.
And then I got, basically, so I was born in 83, in 91, 92-ish, I started, 93, around there, so fucking 10 years old, I started to build my own musical taste and musical collection. So my dad's got an amazing record collection. He's got Sabbath and Floyd and heaps of Led Zepp shit and Jethro Tull and Leonard Skinner and all, like, that sort of slice, and then I was into Stone Temple Pilots and Nirvana and then, later Foo Fighters, and I wasn't really into that sort of hair rock, but Motorhead and then when I was skateboarding, so I was skating as a 13-year-old kid, so I'd listen to the music soundtracks that were on, like Rodney Mullen Day One song, so there'd be like Wu-Tang, and that Street Jeopardy album by Wyclef Jean, which is still fucking one of the greatest. Everyone's like, what a shit, Wyclef Jean, are you fucking serious? Like, that Street Jeopardy album is a fucking hell album. Like, it's a great piece of music, and Wu-Tang Forever is, synonymous with surf, with skateboarding, and then surfing had a whole bunch of films that were made by a guy called Kai Otten, and so I got introduced to super random shit by Phoenix and Pennywise and Survival of the Fattest and like all of these different punk albums that came out. So it was always a little bit, over the space of 10 years when you're building your own flavours in music. My kids now, because my wife grew up in Auckland. She was like slinky, deep, hard and funky fucking fur boots up to her asshole and dancing next to the DJs. And man, she like modelled around New Zealand, around the world. And so her musical taste, her parents used to work at Warner Music and they were a bit more house focused, but they got pictures of them and the Doobie Brothers leaning up against the Ford Capri out at PR, drinking literal fucking cans of beer and smashing Quaaludes in like the fucking 70s and 80s, like cool shit. So you're musically from all sides, like we're a very musically minded family, like we are all about it. So the boys kind of get it, and I'm like, just telling them, you'll feel it. Like if you're into it, you're into it. And they like to dance and they like to sing and they vibe it. But now they get their music from shit like Roblox and fucking
Do you push for instruments, or is you just gonna let them do their own thing? Or
if you want to fuck someone's life, give their kid a recorder. That's fucking
if they haven't got it by year 5, fuck it off.
It's a dog move. Yeah, well, I would love to get, once again, in this whole sort of learning setup, like I'd love to get a piano in our house and learn a piano. My wife's not overly pumped on it, but I think it's a beautiful instrument. I play the guitar a bit, learned at boarding school, kind of like prison, but the boys haven't really gotten shown any interest. I'm like, do you want to play anything? They're like, I want to play drums. I'm like, you fucking out of your head. They'll come in here.
No, you're not.
Like they can jump and like they've got access to shit all the time. A buddy of mine, Dex, is like a bike builder, and he's got a cool, big, dope sort of subterranean house like this with musical instruments through it, and they go and smash everything at his place.
I was fucking lucky when I was young. Out where we lived, there was this guy that just chucked something up on the local notice board and said, give me $20 cash and I'll play guitar and your kid can drum to it. And he just rocked up and he was barefoot and blazed as fuck. And Mum would drop me off for $20 and I'd walk into the community hall and just bash some drums, and he'd just sit there with his eyes closed and play guitar for half an hour.
Sick. You can't do that now.
For like 6 years.
You'll be in a basement somewhere. That's the world we live in. No, I'd love it because I think it's basically like a martial art. Like it is another form of, you've got to be really committed and you've got to be, determined, and you kind of got to stick with it. And I think we get let off too easy. But same thing, like you talk to somebody that dragged around, like P Money dragged around fucking hundreds of thousands of kilos of wax with him his whole life, and now someone's like, laptop, fucking, chuck that on Fortnite and fucking all of a sudden I'm a millionaire. Like it's completely different, and my kids are of that generation. So as much as I want them to be au fait with new technology, man, nothing replaces if you're hearing somebody sit down in front of a piano or someone that's really good with the guitar, and you just go, fuck, that's a talent.
So speaking of sticking with the times, like, you're obviously a big entrepreneur, and one of our favourite beverages,
yes,
you know,
swift pivot, nice.
Yeah, thank you, is this lovely can right here.
Yeah. Shit.
So, you know, run us through that, because at the time, I know we maybe 3-4 years ago, we, you know, drinking. Was a few, I don't know, other stuff. Yeah. We don't want to give them the time of day.
It would be if you were in the same thing. It would have been part-time Rangers, and they were, you know, first cab off the rank.
Or even before that, you would drink, you know, long whites and things like that.
Yeah, long whites is they're a cornerstone of New Zealand. Like that's they're a massive industry. So,
and then we come across these powers, and we're like, oh, these are fucking awesome, and then we find out that lo and behold, they, you know, produced, I don't know if that's the right word, but from yourself, and we're like, man, this guy, he can do it all. Like, so run us through, you know, you're working with the rock, and then you somehow get into the alcoholic beverages.
Yeah. Well, so
where does that come about?
So once again, you go, this is success, this is great.
Yeah.
And then you go,
New Zealanders love piss.
Yeah. What predated POWs? And this is and this is a question that nobody asked. So POWs is incredibly, like, it's an incredibly successful business. Like, you can't fucking, you know, there's no hiding from it, and I'm proud of it. I'm really proud of the work that my wife and I and my business partners have done, and more than that, proud of people like yourself for picking it up and fucking drinking it, because you can make as much shit as you can make. You know, but I think people forget is that, like, and you know, if you don't have a sense of community, and there's always, when you read this book Tribes, you understand why it's so important to appreciate people being a part of your brand and your brand ethos. So to take it all the way back, a buddy of mine, Crody, used to work for a company. He was the CEO of a company that used to buy distressed wine. So he'd buy 300,000-400,000 litres of wine from vineyards that didn't want to put it into bottle, and then would bottle it and then sell it under a different label, whatever it was. It was owned by a big supermarket conglomerate. And my wife drank a shit ton of rosé. She's an absolute fucking soak. No, I'm good, mate. I'm good. He's an absolute soak, and so he goes, mate, we're over in Bali, because go to Bali every year. That's my happy place. Get waves, cheap piss, and really cheap darts.
Yeah.
And great food, phenomenal food. And so we were over there, and he goes, we should start up a rosé company. And we're like, yeah, sweet. What is it? What's the deal? And he goes, $4,000 in, $40,000 out, 6 months. I'm like,
money for jam.
Fucking let's go,
no-brainer.
Boy. Let's go. And so
that's a lot of ciggies.
Yeah, me, fucking Bali. It's like 10 times your body weight. Yeah, it's enough to kill you. Put it that way. And so we started it up over there. Another guy that was over there on the trip with us was like, I do a bit of graphic design. I can do the design and branding for you. This is not on this. So 3 guys designing a rosé because my missus likes to drink it, and as a result of that, the branding's fucking terrible.
You got 3 guys designing rosés. Yeah. Stop there.
Has zero appeal to any woman. And so we got the first batch through, and we're like, fucking, this is not what we expected. But it went well, and we kind of started to build this sort of, you know, a bit of a brand equity in and around what Master of Ceremonies was our wine. And so that ended up, we changed the branding and then got some female help on it, and it was going okay. So we had rosé, Pinot Gris, and a Pinot Noir, Central Otago Pinot Noir, a Gisborne Pinot Gris, and Hawke's Bay rosé. And it was through the process of that. We had Rod McDonald, who's a fucking one of New Zealand's best winemakers, as a contract winemaker. He would organise the growers. But there's so much flux in it. You're forecasting and hoping for the best, and then you're at the whim of supermarkets, and you're kind of fucked, and you don't really own anything. You know, you're sort of sitting in the wind. Unless you own your own vineyards and you're a big dog, then you're sort of poked. And so Nick Marshall, who's our now business partner, came in and jumped and took over the shareholding of the guy that was doing the design work, and was like, oh, look, I can put everything into this, but I think we need to do something different. And so one of those suggestions was doing rosé spritzes, which was basically bottles or cans of sparkling water with rosé. And the guy that was doing the formulation of that was like, fuck, why don't you do an RTD? And we're like, how hard is it? And he's like, not that hard.
So what was the RTD at the time when you were looking into this? Like,
was there any other out?
No. So the other ones that were probably in market that you... Once again, you look at trends and you see where SKUs are going, and it's about being in at the right time. Like, a lot of the mistake is that people go, Reevesy owns a piss company and he's a fucking shambles of a human. I'll be able to do it. And the reality is that the day-to-day running of Powers, I have fucking nothing to do with it. Like it's
just
Nick,
wear the hat.
Nick, that's my job. It's my job is to just is to pump the brand and connect those people to.
Well, ours is to drink it. So and I'm happy with
it's
it.
A tough job. Someone's got to do it.
Yeah.
And so Nick and Matt, my business partners, currently in the States at the moment, fucking doing business. Like they're hardworking, clever motherfuckers.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, that's shown in their shareholding of the company. And so they, the day-to-day business of it, they came back with a bunch of flavors, and we were like, okay, cool. So we went all in. We went for what we thought would be, conservatively a year's worth of. Because you got to buy it. It's like 100,000 can minimum when you're buying these fucking things.
Yeah.
And that's to get them printed. You can get them plastic sleeve for less, but 100,000 minimum. And I'm like, shit, all right. And so what are we hopefully going to sell in the year? So we got a year's worth done. And a friend of mine, Dino, Dwight Harvey, and his family own all the super liquors in the Bay of Plenty and Coromandel up to the East Cape. I rang him. I was like, Dino, went to school with him, boarding school at New Plymouth Boys. I was like, Ning, I'm coming to Tauranga on a fucking bootload of piss, mate. Anna's just told everyone on Instagram that we're fucking selling it at yours. And he's like, fucking hell, Reevesy. This isn't even me putting this system. This isn't fucking going to work. I was like, mate, they're going to be waiting at the shop. And fair enough. People were lined up, ready to go. So we were passing it out the back of the truck. They were scanning it inside and fucking off with it. I don't even know what we were selling it under at this stage.
Holy shit.
And so we ended up selling what we thought we'd sell in a year in 3 weeks. And so it
panic stations at that point?
Full panic stations. Like,
wow.
Absolutely fucked. Didn't have cans. Kurt Gibbons, who's a buddy of mine, he owns the canning plant, Free Flow, where we get it all done. And he's like, let's go, baby. Like, he doesn't fuck around. He's one of the greatest blokes you ever meet. Super, super smart. Very, very successful businessman. And he's like, fucking hold on to the tail of this tiger, boys.
Yeah.
And it went. And it's become what it has become. So, we're basically 3 years in and all through the Southern Hemisphere basically at the moment, except for, the likes of South America and South Africa. We've got every other part sort of covered and looking at what those next steps are.
Because you've seen these other companies that have come before you, and then as much as it is timing, you had your initiative, but then I felt with Pals especially, the timing was perfect. You were early enough that it was new and it was on brand and everything like that, but it had come late enough that you could see a couple go before you and see how to do it right. So the whole zero sugar approach and everything, that becomes a must at a certain point, or some sort of like environmental approach, or knowing that it's not just some conglomerate looking to take your money kind of thing.
Yeah.
You pushed that it was coming from a person, it's zero sugar, the pastel colouring, the simple branding, you kind of hit the clean aesthetic that everybody was looking after at the time.
Yeah, well, it's just something that translated across, like even down to the illustrations and like we're all from so Nick, Matt, and myself are all from the Bay, so they went to Otamoto College, but fucking apart from Trent Bolt, they're probably the slickest thing to come out of there, I'd say, And Apes, who does our accounts, she's also from Tauranga as well. We kept it pretty close. The illustration work's done from a bloke that's in Tauranga, and all the branding and everything that goes with it. So we kind of kept it as close as we could. But it's just us. Like, fucking people know it's us. Like, it's our business. Like, we're not millionaires. We're not backed by a big corporation. It's like we've bootlaced this thing together, and its success is down to the fact that people believed in us. Because there's big, and the money that the big boys throw at competitors to this will fucking make your toes curl. Like, unbelievable amounts of money they can shit into a product that's going in reverse, and they just keep pouring it in, hoping that it eventually gets some traction and crawls its way out. Whereas we would just sink or swim, and as a result of that, we're swimming, and we've sort of shut down the wine part of the business, and we're doubling down on what we've got here.
Well, I mean, like I said before, like New Zealanders, like we drink a lot of piss, right? And we will pride ourselves, and we won't drink stuff that we don't want to drink. You know what I mean? We're not going to sit there and continue to drink shit that we're not going to be interested in. And I think that's a testament to what you guys have done with Pals, is because, you're right, where there's a community base and they've driven all the buying of it and all that, but people were continuously drinking it because it's generally fucking good.
Yeah, well, I think it didn't, like, I think, like you said, like there were gaps. It wasn't. we don't want it to be sweet, but we don't want it to taste like we're fucking pouring battery acid into our mouths, which was what some of the others were tasting like. And you can get you shouldn't have to give up everything. Like at the end of the day, this should be an enjoyable drink, but more so than that, it was the messaging in and around it. Like, a tin of piss will never be your mate. Like, this is what they are built for. They are a social lubricant for a group of people to get together and share and have, decent chats about. Like, there's other people in market that go, just mass consume this and just get as many units into you as you possibly can. But we're we want to work in the opposite direction and go, we understand that there is a problem with the way that New Zealand drinks and we don't want to be perpetuating that problem. We want to... You can't just cut piss out. Like, I love drinking piss. I love drinking piss.
We just cut it. That's it. You just that.
We need a better relationship with piss, and we need a better relationship with our pals. And these things go hand in hand. Like, we need better friendships than we need better relationships with our friends. We need to foster the good parts of those and start moving away from the bits that aren't so great.
I can tell you off the top of my head, there's a couple of other brands of RTDs floating around where they completely convey the opposite message to what you just said.
Yeah.
And I've heard from other people that there's a lot of hoops to jump through trying to get this sort of stuff off the ground. But this seems like I don't know whoever you have to talk to about it, but it seems like a bit of a dream. After that initial 3 weeks kind of out the door quicker than you thought, did it go off the shelves for a bit, or did you just immediately...
Yeah, fuck. It was fucked.
Well, how many flavours as well with it? Like at that point, did you have 3 at that point, and you're like,
So we had the Hawke's Bay.
Cut your question off there.
You're all good.
Well, we had the Hawke's Bay lemon and I'll put them all together. So Hawke's Bay lemon cucumber gin and soda, and then we had the vodka lime and soda, and then the other one that we had was the watermelon mint, which.
So what colours were they? I only care about the colours.
Pink, green, and yellow.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Yeah, and so a lot of people were like, what sort of a fuckwit's going to drink watermelon and mint? And that was the fucking top seller for ages. Like, I saw...
They're delicious.
Yeah.
The mint?
Yeah.
Nailed.
Mate, the amount... a buddy of mine, Jared Hoiata, played for Taranaki, and they won the Ranfurly Shield, and all the boys are fucking thumping pink pals holding onto the Ranfurly Shield. And that's at that point you go, there is a cultural change in the way that men are drinking and what it is that they're consuming. And then you see it in data, the number of beers being consumed drop out the arse, because get to my age, if I have 6 beers, I just look like a fucking pelican.
That's what I meant by the zero sugar thing matters. Mate, coming from a concreter, this is the drink of choice on a Friday now.
Yeah, well, you sweat all day and you're active, and for someone like me that's inactive, like if I drink beers at the rate I drank, it's like the first summer I dropped 5 kilos without slowing down how much I drank, but just what I drank. And I think people sort of made that, like, even on, like I've got buddies that run development companies and they buy it by the pallet because all of their subbies would prefer to drink this, and not even. It used to be one of those things. It's been refreshed as opposed to steaming tins. So the boys will sit round, knock off, tidy up, fucking have a general at 3, and then knock over a tin, knock over another one, and then 2 hours later have a drink of water and then drive home, and they'll know that they're not over. And that they've refreshed themselves. Whereas what used to happen is everyone would sit on a box, knock a box of piss over, stupidly drive, blow over, and start fucking ruining careers and lives. So I think the way that people are drinking has changed, and I really love to see that, because
I was about to say, like, do you think that it's because the culture's changed, like in terms of like the stigma around like men, you gotta drink beer, or and then you move into something like this, and then people are drinking these vodka or gin and things like that. Do you think it's like because that stigma's starting to shift or change?
Yeah, I think I think it used to be, if you looked at someone, and mate, this ain't even me. If you walked up to some bloke that was standing there with a pink pastel can in his hand, you'd be like, I'd hate to see your fucking search history. But now people walk up to that person and they're like, well, they clearly give a fuck about what they're putting into their body, and they want to get up tomorrow, and they might be going to kids' footy in the morning first thing, and they want to be clear-headed, or they might be going out fishing first thing, or they might be in the hills going hunting, or they might have something on tomorrow that they don't want to cloud themselves up with beers. Don't get me wrong, I fucking love beer. I love beer, but I would prefer to drink this, and I prefer to drink less than what I used to.
Yeah.
Because I think if I used to, I don't know, like every Kiwi, get 2 boxes of piss and knock them over and be buckled. Whereas now, I'll have 3 or 4 tins and I'm good.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to send it, I'm going to send it. And it's like, it's not every weekend. It'll be specifics, you know?
Funny that you say that, about the cultural shift. This whole, we've said it on the podcast before, like one of the better things that not just our generation, but the generation before us, and that the whole idea of making healthy cool. Yeah. And the whole, drive-through. If you're getting a drive-through now, people are like, oh, you're really going to do that again? You've already done it this week. And the idea of eating healthy. And that's one thing, like I said it before, circling back, the whole zero sugar thing and the idea that it's healthy. The whole soda water, the hydration thing.
You've touched on it exactly. So sugar creates inflammation within the body, which is the fucking worst thing bar none. So you cut as much sugar out of your system as you possibly can. It works for you. Yeast and those sort of things, the fermentation within you, like candidas within your body. Nothing wrong with drinking beer, but it's the volume in which you drink it. And I think most people find that, like, your liver's always working. Like, if you imagine it as a person that's at the end of a conveyor belt that's just shuffling shit off it. If you have ever worked on a conveyor, I worked in a margarine factory. I know what it's like to be fucking under the pump, boxes flying off the end of the thing, stretching the fucking rack out so that you can hold them all on it. Like, if you get swamped, then you just throw your hands in the air and you go, fuck it, and you just sit back and it just piles up and piles up and piles up. And that's what it was like when you'd push a dozen tins through you that were beer. But now, because there's hydration and it flushes through you, it's a lot easier on your system.
They're just still water and all that. Yeah.
I'm not saying that it's science, but there's not the residual sugars that hang around. The sweetness comes from apple juice as opposed to sugar, and it's those subtle changes that make a difference. And it's about not losing your nights, not losing your days to your nights. And that's, I think, what people are coming to the realization for. You work fucking hard for 5 days of the week and long hours, and the only 2 days that you're giving yourself off, you want to fuck and stay in bed and eat shit food. Like, that makes no sense to anyone. Like, say, for example, you're an alien and you turned up and you saw how people operate and you go, I'm not even gonna bother, because you're that fucking useless that you can't reward yourself properly with good food and rest and proper sleep and rewarding yourself for the work that you do with the time and how you spend it and who you spend it with. Yeah. So, like, fuck, why bother? Like, if you were just for a second to see what it would look like if you'd never seen how we operate before.
Yeah.
So hang on, let me get my head around this.
Yeah.
Fucking work 60 hours a week.
Yeah.
And then fuck yourself up on the last day of work and then ruin the 2 days that you get off so that you can go back to work buckled and fucking hate yourself on Monday.
Yeah. I lost 4 years that way.
Yeah.
Oh, it happens.
That's exactly right.
The second you're out of high school and you're making some coin, there's nothing else you want to do. There is a pivoting point, and it was something I wanted to ask you, because you do have a point of, you obviously care about your body and what you put into it. So what is...
I'm just listening to the chorus of fucking people that know me laughing hearing you say that. Fucking all right.
We'll put a photo up here.
Yeah. Their eyes like a
just
fucking chameleon.
But there is something I've heard you talk about before, and I wanted to get into it because it was something that I'm interested in, but I'm ill-informed on, and that was your breathwork and your cold water plunging and stuff like that.
Yeah.
When I say that you look after your body, that has been something that you've talked about practicing. Do you want to jump into that?
It is hands down the greatest thing that I've ever come across in my life, and has made the biggest difference to me as a person, probably in conjunction with DMT, but I wouldn't have got to that point without having the breathwork and the ice bath. So, backstory on that: Logan Dodds, good buddy of mine, he dragged me into this an ice work session with a guy called Nigel Beach, who I didn't know but was based in Mount Maunganui and has worked with everyone from NRL players. He's the reason why Izzy breathes through his nose.
Seen him on the videos, yeah.
Fucking outrageous dude. Crazy clever guy. He's Wim Hof's right hand man. For people that don't know, Wim Hof lost his wife. She had terrible mental health and threw herself off a fucking 17-story building or whatever. Took her own life and left him with 4 kids. And so he's like, there must be something wrong with the way. And I mentioned it earlier on, like, you're given this body but without a user manual, and you drive it in first gear. And how do you get out of first gear? Well, you need to be cognizant and learning what it is that you can do to improve your body. And so one of the things that we have, and I didn't know until this point, is that I'm this is not even that long ago. This is like 5-6 years ago. I'm not breathing right. Like, I breathe into my chest, and the physiological response for breathing into your chest, when you breathe into like your chest line here, that your body is told that you're in fight or flight, because you breathe shallow when you're in fight or flight. So all the blood goes from your organs, which is digesting your food and fucking pumping around your body and clearing your blood out, goes to your extremities so you can fucking high knees it or punch on. And so we have these digestion issues because we're continually in fight or flight and fucking tipping ourselves full of coffee and rinsing our adrenal glands. So then all of a sudden, like, people are, oh man, I'm fucking lactose intolerant, I've got candida and I've got IBS and all the other stuff that goes with it. It's because you're just continually got no blood to do the job that it needs to do in here, because it's always on your extremities. So by breathing into your stomach, you change the physiological response. And it's your parasympathetic nervous system and how you can sort of override that and what it does. So every morning, my non-negotiables are to get up with my kids. The first thing I do every single morning is a guided breathwork session, which is a YouTube video I watch, and it's fucking 11 minutes. And if you can't give yourself 11 minutes, like, go fuck yourself. Like, you actually don't deserve a body. And it makes such a massive difference in the way that I react to everyday situations, how I talk to my kids, how I operate with my wife, and how I operate in business. And it's easy. And then the I side of things is, you go, your body, when you turn up to it, is it just has, you've got this voice in your body that saves you basically from dying, and mine yells at me from time to time because I ride a motorcycle. But it's never screamed louder at me than when I hopped into the ice. And it's you getting control over your body and figuring out that you can sit in something that is 0 degrees where your whole body is screaming at you, you are fucking dying, and then you get past it, and within the first 7 breaths that you do in and out of your nose, you're like, I'm on top of it. And then if you imagine it to be, if you're one of those people that drives, this is the easiest example. If you're a person that drives, someone cuts in front of you and you're like, fucking on the fuck you, motherfucker. Like, would you, if somebody, you're walking down the road and you're walking on Queen Street, it's busy, and someone walks across in front of you, would you blow up at them like that? Like, would you actually lose your shit to that level? Like, fucking. But so. What is the difference? Like, there is 2 bits of metal in between you. So all of a sudden you can do this. And so if you're a person that all of a sudden spirals out real quick and then takes a while to come back down, then this is the best thing for you, because what it does is your ability to be in a stressful situation and return to your normal homeostasis, like your line, gets stretched out. So shit, like mine's like out. What would normally be, this is audio so you can't see it, what would normally be 6 inches of wiggle room, now for me is 3.5 meters. So if somebody was to cut me off before and I was to go, like driving into Auckland, used to just have a pack of darts on the thing, and I'd just be fucking Olympic torching these things, just eyes wide open, stressed out, the whole way, trying to find the Khyber Pass off ramp. And now I just don't have that stress. I don't freak out. I don't blow up. It's very hard to get me into that stress state where the curtains drop down and I fucking lose my mind, because I've practiced stretching it out, and that's me getting my body into second gear. Like, I've always driven in first, and now I'm in second, and now I'm learning other things and how I can go into third, and and learning how to drive my body properly, and learning what works best for me. And it might not be the best, it might not work for everybody, but the simple act of breathing and the fucking simple act of sleeping make such a difference in your life and how you operate. And it's just one of those things. The ice, like cold showers every morning, fucking non-negotiable. And it lets you know you're alive, like you are fucking alive. And that's, so it sets me up. And I thought it was absolute fucking snake oil when I was doing it. Like, if you haven't done it, so basically, I can send you guys the video that I do.
I was going to say, with permission.
Yeah. So basically what it is, it's controlled hyperventilation. So you basically breathe. So if you put your hand on your stomach and you put your hand on your chest, you can even do it now. So put your hand on your stomach, your hand on your chest. Most people go and breathe into their chest. What you do is you want to breathe into your stomach. So your stomach goes out, you go, and then it's like a wave goes up. And so you do that 30 times, like.
Damn.
And you do that, and then on the last one, you breathe all the way out, so you got nothing left in your body. In this stage, the first time I did it, I'm off the back of full send at Melbourne Cup. Like, I'm thumping darts, and absolutely made a pig of myself. And I breathed all the way out, And I sat there. So you basically hold your breath with nothing in it, and you go, how long do you reckon you can hold your breath for?
15 seconds.
Mate, for so long. I am about 30 seconds.
Yeah. So with all my breath out of my body, fucking completely bone dry, I'm sitting there and I don't feel like I need to breathe. And then it's like, okay, that's 1:30. And now I'm at 2 minutes. And now I'm at 2 minutes 30. I'm like,
what?
Fuck, am I even alive now? So I'm at 3 minutes.
So the ceiling of what's normal's been ramped up so high.
Yeah, so you think of what was meant to be 100% oxygen saturation of your cells, you've been operating at 12. And so now I've found that second gear, and you can pump it into it. So I stick to the plan, like first breath holds like a minute, and the second two are like 1:30. But you can do the app and get them right up there. And it becomes a competition. So you're like, I did 4 minute breath holds. And you're like, wow.
4 minutes? What the fuck?
I know. It sounds real. I know. It sounds fucking unreal.
Got gills in your ass.
Yeah. But when you do it, it'll blow your mind. And when you get taken through it, when you do these courses, particularly with Nigel Beach, he gives you the explanation and behind it, because it's like you've hyper-oxygenated your cells and you don't need to brush off that carbon dioxide. And so that's because I couldn't train for this fight. All I could do was apnea training, which is basically brushing or getting my CO2 tolerance up so that it doesn't dump into my legs and fucking fill me up with concrete.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, I'll send you the video. It's 11 minutes. He talks you through it. And Wim Hof's, fucking amazing guy.
Well, that's a good segue before we wrap things up. You've got a
hiding coming my way.
Well, so
you reckon? Before we get into it, what do you like? Gut feeling going into it. Do you want to say?
I'm a betting man.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm hoping that there's a fucking tab on
So
this.
can I, and obviously getting to meet you, how are you feeling? I want to know. Can I put some money down?
You're fighting Tammy Davis, host of the George FM Breakfast Show.
Yeah.
What's your gut when this got announced? Now, was it a case of they ran a couple by you and you guys got to pick each other, or was there a few names in the hat?
Yeah. So the backstory of it was I said to Dino Lonergan that I wanted to fight Thane Kirby for fucking ever, and it just never eventuated.
Yeah.
And that was a very long time ago, and it was me just being a petty, angry fuck about something that he said that he wouldn't have even thought about and given a fuck about since, but. It was something that I was like, you need your head pulled in.
This is when you're in first gear, right?
That's when I'm in first gear.
Yeah.
Mate,
Now you're in second gear.
I'm just fucking redlining, just valve bouncing and neutral.
Right, yeah.
And so I always said to Dino, if you call, I will answer. And I was standing next door in the office, and I was sitting there with Roundy, and the phone rings, and I was like, fuck, it's Dino. And it's like one of those like fucking, sliding door situations. I was like full body in and out, like, fuck. And I was like, g'day, Dino. And he goes, well, you said you'd always answer, and you answered your phone. And I was like, what are we talking about? And he goes, fight for life. And I was like, fuck yes, I'm in. And he's like, do you know who you're fighting? And I was like, I don't give a fuck. Because to me...
Line them up.
To me, for me, it's always... You need somebody. It's a competition. You need to get into a ring, and you need to be tested. But... it's everything that leads up to that. It's accepting the fight. It's accepting the challenge. It's walking into some adversity. It's about learning something new, because I've never done boxing. Like, I'm not a fighter. Like, I've had dust-ups on the paddock and shit street fights, and they last all of 5 seconds, and I've soaked up more punches than I've probably dished out. And so I had the opportunity to do something that I've never done and learn something new. B, show my boys that it's great to put yourself in these positions and fucking sweat, and win or lose, you're on the journey. The fight itself on the 21st will be a centimetre and a kilometre journey for me. And before walking through the ropes, I want to know that I've done everything that I could. So the fight was meant to be at the end of last year. It got postponed. It was meant to be at the beginning of this year. Got pushed again. Then I had my sternum chopped out, and then that slowed things down. And then they got a staph infection, so then it got fucking a massive hole chopped in me, and like a Ryco oil filter jammed in my chest, like a shit version of Iron Man. And so that it turned a 10-week fight camp into basically a 7-week fight camp. Well, probably 6. I'm 1 weekend basically in training. And I get to work with Shane Cameron. Like, Shane's my coach.
The mountain man.
Yeah, and I've admired him forever. Like, and he's no fucking schmuck. Like, he was Mike Tyson's sparring partner. Like, he doesn't fuck around, and he's got a high level of expectation, and he holds me to account, and has beaten the fuck out of me for the last week. Like, I've never felt my face bruised all round. Like, I got bruises on my forehead. I'm like, how the fuck did that happen? And I love it, and I love the journey, and I think it's great for me in particular because I've got such a high. I hold myself in such a high. I know. I think I'm better than I am, and I need this shit to tell me that I'm not. So I turn up. Same with the hunting thing. Like, if you said to me, here's a gun, go and shoot something, I'll be like, oh, fucking gun sweaters, man. And chances are I could fuck it up. And then there's an animal running around with no fucking jaw. You know, like, I could have done something stupid. So I went through the process of learning it. If you said to me, take a fight next weekend, turn up, how do you reckon you'll go? I'd be like, oh, I do fucking 3 2-minute rounds, piece of piss. Pretty handy with the fucking, sharing leather and old fucking 1-2s. A bit fucking whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'm shit. I'm absolutely shit. I'm fucking rubbish. And so it was a start from scratch and learn things properly, and it takes a long time, like 10,000 hours to be proficient, and we've got 5 weeks. Yeah. And so it's not going to be like watching Mayweather fucking Pacquiao. Like, yeah, so you'll be headgear, big gloves. This the whole shooting.
How many rounds have you guys decided, or is it?
Yeah, it's 3 2-minute rounds because that's all you get for the card.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
That's basically the amateur setup that it is.
Yeah.
And it's a fucking long time. Like if.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Yeah. To be the easiest way of doing it is go. Okay, cool. So hop into a space and just bounce around on your feet and shuffle around in a confined space for 2 minutes, and then on top of that. Start shadow boxing, and then see how you go in 2 minutes, and then
get punched in the head.
Then on top of that, get fucking punched in the head for 2 minutes with someone chasing you around the ring, and you forgetting to breathe for the first minute of that 2 minutes. There's so much.
Well, that's where your breathing comes in, right? You've been learning that for a while now, and. Do you really think Tammy Davis has got a bit of knockout power, or you think?
100%.
Oh yeah,
man. He's been
he's sweeping him under the rug.
Shit, no way. And he said to me, "Hey, fuck," because we're mates.
Well, he just recently given us a follow on Instagram, and we're thinking like, oh, okay, this is his angle here.
Get in.
So Jay, what have you got something to say to him?
He's same age that we're suited well. Like we've both never had a fight. We're both up for it, and we said early doors when we got picked to be fighting each other. I said to him, "This is awesome, and what I want from you is just an honest account of yourself, because I'm going to give you an honest account of me, and." If you fucking knock me out in the first 10 seconds, then that is an honest account of me, and that's what I'm after. Yeah. Or if it goes 3 rounds and we're split decision, then that's fucking equally as cool. Like however it goes on the night, I just want you to give it your best and know that I've given it my best, because it's disrespectful to you for me to hop in underprepared. And so with all the fuck ups that's been happening, he was like, "Do you want to carry on with it? Do you want to go through with it?" And I'm like, 100%. I just need to chase, and I've got I've got some ground that I need to make up, and know that when I get in the ring, I'll be the best that I can be on the time that I've had, and fucking put me down. Like just
he's quite a comedic person, obviously. Yeah. So like, are you expecting him to come in and have a bit of foot movement, and, like maybe put on a show rather than be too, like, or do you think he's secretly training and he's
training hard, man?
Yeah. Different animals.
Yeah, he's if you see him. I mean, I get to see him in a whole bunch of different lights. I get to see him I've seen him as Tammy the actor, and I've seen him as Tammy the radio host. I've seen him as Tammy the mate. I've seen him as Tammy the father to a teenager. Like he is a multifaceted person. Like he is not his character in which he plays. Like he's a bad motherfucker that knows how to throw and has been training for a long time and has.
I've seen him, and then Tegan, who also got. They put on the card. Yeah. I follow them, and they've been putting on a lot of boxing stuff. They're always working with each other. And when it got announced, I was like, oh, there it goes. It makes sense.
Tegan's training twice a day.
Yeah.
But rightly so. She's fucking fighting Honey Bill. So I'd rather fight Tammy. Yeah.
Well, we'll be there.
Yeah.
We'll be heading over.
Yeah, we're going to be there.
Yeah. It's a great cause. And I mean, it's one of those things. I can step into a ring. I can put my body through the ringer and get fucking punched in the face by Shane Cameron. For the number of weeks that I'm doing this, so that it makes a difference. Like I've got kids. Like, they might need to use that service. I hope they never do, but it needs to be there. And if not them, it might be their mates. And if not them, it might be someone at their school. And if not them, it might be my kid's mate, my mate's kid. So it's I am hoping the work that they do is awesome, and anything we can do to get around it. But it's just, once again, it's all those things. I won when I answered the phone. I won when I fucking decided that I was going to do the fight. I won when I started training. I won when I got punched in the face by Shane. I won by meeting Shane. Like, I've had so many wins. If the only loss I get is on the night, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah. You learn along the way.
Exactly. It's about the journey, not the destination, because then you miss so much. Like, imagine I'm going to Invercargill and then just opening your eyes and you're in Invercargill after leaving Auckland. Like, how much you would miss. And so many people want that. Fuck that, man. I want fucking bulls. And I want Kaikoura, and I want the whole lot. I want Leaston, you know? I want a shit ferry crossing. Like, I'm all about it. Yeah, I'm all about it.
Sweet. All right, guys. Well, that about wraps up episode 33 of Off Topic.
Shit, well done. Congrats. 33.
33,
yeah, you can get at us on Instagram at Off Topic Chat for any messages. Guys will always be your ear for anything. So if you're ever looking for someone to say anything to, we'll always be here for you. If you guys ever want us to talk about anything or talk to us about anything, like I said, we're there for you. You can see some of our clips on TikTok at Off Topic Potty. Otherwise, offtopicjandy@gmail.com for any long-form emails. Jay, we want to thank you for taking the time,
thanks,
for giving us the space to express ourselves and hear your story. It's a lot of food for thought. It's a lot of lessons that we haven't been told or haven't learned that I'll definitely take upon as someone that's kind of, someone that's succeeded in the space, as well as a successful father, a successful business owner. It's a lot.
Successful man.
I appreciate you guys giving me the time, and I love to chat. It's good stuff. I'll for the show notes, I'll give you the videos and those Audible, man. It's like we're so lucky, like you said. Audible's so easy. You can drive to work and listen to some shit songs and some shit banter, or you can eat up a book that'll, stop you playing chess and let you play a bit of stop you playing checkers and let you play a bit of chess for a while.
Brilliant.
Sweet. All right. Thank you very much. Peace.
Later.
Go well, go long.
Good night, eh?